In the personal story segment tonight, how to handle a Syrian refugee crisis is now a centerpiece of the presidential campaigns. Meantime, new polling from Bloomberg shows the majority of Americans, 53%, do not want the United States to take Syrian refugees. Just 28% think the U.S. should move forward with the plan to resettle 10,000 refugees without religious screening. 11% say only Christian refugees from Syria should be taken in. Joining us now from Washington, David Goodfriend, who worked for President Clinton, and here in New York, Brooke Goldstein, the director of the Lawfare Project. Now, Brooke, let's talk about this a little bit. 53% say don't emigrate any of the refugees whatsoever. What's wrong with that idea for now, just until we find out what's really going on?
Well, you know what? There is nothing wrong with the fact that Americans simply do not trust the Obama administration to deal with national security issues. I mean, the Obama administration can't even pronounce the word Islamist terrorism. How can we possibly trust them to engage in a proper vetting process? We have a failed foreign policy, and our president is going around joking and accusing everyone of being racist if they expressed real concerns about this imminent security threat. So that's what the poll
David, there's an analogy going around the internet all day today, whether it's M&Ms or Skittles or grapes. If you have 100 in a basket and you know one of them could kill you, would you eat the grape, the Skittle, or the M&M?
Well, I want to try to bring this conversation to a Republican in Congress right now who I think is a true statesman and somebody who's speaking the truth to the American people, which we really need right now, and that's Senator Bob Corker. He's the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, the top committee for dealing with foreign affairs. And what does Senator Corker from Tennessee tell us? What he tells us is that we're focused on the wrong problem. And I think we need to listen to him. He's saying that when we talk about the refugees and a refugee admissions program, that's really not where the greatest threat lies. The greatest threat lies in visa waivers, student waivers, or waivers for travel, or waivers for working. The minute he started talking about that, the Heritage Foundation, representing business interests, said, oh, no, don't touch the visa waivers. We got a lot of employees and people who come in for tourism dollars. They're putting money ahead of our national security. I'm with Senator Bob Corker, Republican of Tennessee. I think we need to get some facts out here and talk reasonably to the American people.
Clearly, David, and Brooke, you can weigh in on this. There are a lot of issues. The people overstaying their visas is an issue. People coming across the borders is an issue. And not knowing who the Syrians are. How do we vet these people? I know it's a long process, but based on what?
Well, that's the point. I think we have to get a group, a bipartisan group of counterterrorism experts to get together and assess the problem and come up with a real plan. We have had a war in Syria for 3 years. We have had a refugee crisis for 2.5 years. We have been seeing pictures of dead Syrian children for way too long. And all of a sudden, Obama says we have to open up our borders. And if you disagree with him and we don't let in refugees right now without the vetting process, we're all racist. We have to stop and take a breath and think about this.
Yes, let me jump in because there is a real answer, Eric, to your question. It takes typically about 18 to 24 months for anybody in the refugee program administered by the United Nations High Command for Refugees, where someone is referred to the United States and then begins this 2-year-long process going through the FBI, through the NASA.
That's no longer the process. They're now cutting down the length of time. They're cutting down the length of time by half. They're also increasing.
You are absolutely wrong.
What are you talking about? How am I wrong? They are cutting down the length of time. They are increasing 5-fold the amount of refugees they want to bring into this country in 2016. Okay, so whatever vetting process we have for 2015 has to be completely overhauled. We have to step back and listen to the experts. And I trust the counterterrorism experts when they tell us that we don't have an okay process going on here.
No, and I trust them when they say that the House passed bill means nothing because there isn't even a resource allocation for doing something differently. Look, again, I'm coming back to Senator Corker, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee,
there's an important issue here. Do you know that the State Department yesterday said that they only track refugees for 90 days after they enter the United States? In 90 days, they're free to go. Frankly, as it is, they can probably go from state to state freely, and there's no one tracking them. Now, we know there's an issue of homegrown terror. We know there's an issue of Americans getting radicalized. I got to think a Syrian coming over the border is a little bit easier to radicalize than an American growing up in a New Jersey high school.
Listen, let's look at the actual enemy here. Those terrorists who did that terrible act in Paris. How many of them were actually French or Belgian citizens, confirmed. I believe it is 7,
well,
but it's certainly the vast majority. They could have come over. Just a minute, let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
As Syrian refugees.
They came into Europe because Europe has no vetting process. If you look at coming into the United States,
but
if you're a dumb terrorist. Just a minute. If you're a dumb terrorist, and there are some, I'm sure, you go in and try to get in as a refugee. Right. If you're smart, you try to get in under a visa. That's what Senator Corker is telling us to focus on. You're barking up the wrong tree.
We're worried about the really smart
Worry about the smart ones and
all right,
listen
we gotta leave
to
it right
the Republicans.
David and Brooke, thank you very much. Hot debate.